You're listening to Pombo and Peter's Picks, the home of your favorite sports betting podcast. Presented by The Daily Goat.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Pombo and Peter's Picks. I'm Jason Pombo, joined as always with Peter Alves. Peter, what is up, buddy?
What is up? How was everyone's Halloween? How's your Halloween?
My Halloween was good. I got to spend October 30th with you on that Saturday. We had a little get together like we talked about last week on the podcast with a lot of people on the Daily Goat. It was a fun time. Peter, and you also went to another party a couple days prior. So what were you this last weekend?
Where's Waldo? We all found him. Every time I hear that joke, if I had $1 for every time I heard that joke, I'd be a rich man.
I know I put it on his Instagram. He's probably atting me, but that's fine. I was Bugs Bunny.
No, I'm not adding anybody. I'm just adding like everybody.
That's fair. That's fair. I was Bugs Bunny from Space Jam. It was not the costume I was hoping for. I wanted to find that Space Jam jersey. Couldn't find it anywhere. I looked everywhere you could possibly think of, but I made it work. I had some Space Jam shorts lying around. I had a Space Jam sweatshirt. I got some ears, and I had Yeah,
it was pretty good.
It was a fun time, but Halloween's over, Peter. We're gonna be looking at Thanksgiving real soon.
Yeah, 4 weeks, I think.
Maybe in a couple weeks. Yeah, about 3 weeks. Maybe we can draft our favorite Thanksgiving foods, Peter. What do you think about that one?
All right, stuffing's number one. Spoiler.
You can't spoil. Well, speaking of spoiling, we'll spoil how we did last week on our picks. I went 3-2. A productive week for me. I had the Steelers plus 3.5 over the Browns. The Steelers won outright. I had the Cowboys, baby, minus 2.5 over the Vikings. So just a little backtrack in case people weren't sure, like, why would I pick the Cowboys? When we recorded the episode last week, Dak Prescott was expected to play. There really wasn't much concern swirling his injury. And once we recorded and released the podcast, the betting odds changed dramatically. And I think the Vikings were 3-point favorites. But the Cowboys ended up winning and covering my original spread. So that was a win. And then I was right about the under for the Falcons-Panthers for 46. And then my losses were as bad as it gets. The Bengals, minus 10. They broke my heart. That was our survivor picks, myself and Peter. Very frustrated about that. Mike White, I believe I count that as your fault, Peter.
Why? I mean, listen, an insider trading thing. I mean, we did forget to say our survivor pick on the podcast, so I had to edit that in. But no, Mike White balled out 400 yards versus the Bengals. I think the Bengals looked ahead on that game. I think they didn't show up. And obviously coming off that big win versus the Ravens. But do you know that every number one seed has gotten waxed like the week before? Like the Ravens, the Chargers, the Bengals, now the Titans, because they don't have their...
It's unfortunate because hindsight, we should have trusted our guy Mike White, Peter.
I guess. I mean,
and then my last one, I had the Lions plus 3.5 over the Eagles. I'm done picking the Lions this year. I'm 0-2 doing it. I'm done. Sorry, Noah.
No, every time he's like, why do you guys bet on the Lions? You guys are never going to learn.
I know. But the thing is, they were just in so many close games. I thought this would be the week they actually break through and get a win against a Eagles team that I think a lot of them were focused on the trade deadline, a.k.a. Dallas Goedert, Fletcher Cox, a plethora of those guys have been rumored to trade, so I thought they wouldn't show up. And they showed up. Jalen Hurts didn't even have a fantastic game, but Jared Goff was bad, and the Lions defense was bad. So I believe I'm done picking Lions games this year. So that is it. I finished 3-2 though, so that's a W.
I think I did the best on this probably podcast like ever. Went 4-1. Rams minus 14.5. I thought that the Texans were going to backdoor that, but it didn't. Giants plus 10. Chiefs squeaked out that win, as we said. Eagles minus 3.5, and then the Bills minus 14. That's my premium pick. Rip the Dolphins 1-7. You don't even have your pick. Rest in peace. And then my only loss was the Falcons minus 3. That's a joke because Sam Darnold now has a concussion and couldn't even beat PJ Walker in the second half. So
yeah, rough game for the Falcons. So speaking of the Falcons, Calvin Ridley's going to step aside. He released, an Instagram statement?
Yeah,
it was on Instagram that he's going to take a step away from football to focus on himself and his mental health. So Ridley is out of the fold for the foreseeable future for the Falcons. And the Falcons, I mean, going into that week, they looked like they were on the up and up, I think. I mean, they had a couple quality wins, but that loss against the Panthers was pretty bad, especially when Darnold was out. No McCaffrey for Carolina. Tough week for the Atlanta Falcons.
You know who was back though? Stephon Gilmore. That's
Yep, Gilmore had an interception. He played about 22 snaps, 23 snaps. He had a game-clinching interception against Kyle Pitts.
Says a lot. You'll play for the Carolina Panthers for that money, but you won't play for the Patriots.
We'll see how he does this week against the Patriots. I'm very excited for that matchup. I'm curious how Carolina. We'll talk about the Patriots, but I'm curious who Carolina is going to have him on. It should be interesting. But let's transition to some NFL games this past week. So let's talk about last Thursday Night Football's game. It was the Green Bay Packers against the Arizona Cardinals. The Packers came into this game as I believe they were underdogs, right, Peter? What were they? 3-point underdogs?
Yeah, they're probably like 3 dogs.
The Cardinals were undefeated, and it felt like this could be a game for the number 1 seed in the NFC going into the game. So I watched the game with Peter, and the first 3 quarters we were unamused by the game. It was a pretty relatively boring game. It wasn't anything too exciting, but the fourth quarter, it got exciting, and things really changed in the last about 5-6 minutes of the game. The Packers ended up getting a victory 24-21. Aaron Rodgers was 22 of 37, 184 yards and 2 touchdowns. He didn't have his best game, in my opinion, but the Packers were able to run the ball really effectively. They ran for 151 yards on 34 carries. A.J. Dillon had 78 yards, and Aaron Jones had 58 yards. Cardinals, on the other hand, it wasn't a great offensive performance for them. Kyler Murray, he threw 2 interceptions. He was 22 of 33 for 274 yards. They weren't able to get anything going on the ground game. DeAndre Hopkins missed a large chunk of the game due to a hamstring injury. He was held to only 2 receptions for 66 yards. Kyler Murray actually hurt his ankle in the last quarter, so his status is uncertain for this week against the 49ers. But I think the biggest moment of the game was the Packers' decision to go for it on 4th down on that 4th and goal situation, and that decision by A.J. Green to not really look for that pass cost him the game.
Yeah, he was looking at the Jumbotron. He didn't turn around that fade route. I don't even think he was expecting the ball, but because I think Kyler Murray checked out of that play. I think it was supposed to be a run play, and then he did a back shoulder fade route. But if you're A.J. Green, there's no excuse. You should do it all the way through. I think that's the reason why they lost that game. And then Kyler visibly upset, and as you said, injured his ankle, but I think he said he was okay to play. A.J. Green was just placed on the reserve COVID list, so he's not going to play, I don't think. And I think that after this game, even with the Rodgers news, we'll get into it after, I think the Packers locked up the number 1 seed.
So?
Yeah, even above your Rams, I think. Because we'll get to that, but I don't think that Jordan Love is that bad, so.
Yeah, that'll be – so, yeah, we'll talk about Aaron Rodgers a little later in the show, so stay tuned. But Peter, I think you hit on some great points. A.J. Green, Kyler Murray, whose ever fault that was, that's huge. Game was on the line. They needed it. And that could be a momentum-changing part of the season for the Cardinals. But I felt when you look at things in hindsight that I don't like the play call. I don't love that play call there, especially to A.J. Green, first of all. But it's just tough however you want to look at it. And I feel like the Packers, Matt LaFleur, they really lucked out. All right, let's talk about the Patriots-Chargers, right? Patriots flying to L.A. against the Chargers team that are coming off a bye week after the week before they got absolutely destroyed by the Baltimore Ravens. So the Patriots ended up winning 27-24. Mac Jones didn't have his best game. He was 18 of 35, 218 yards. But the Patriots were able to run the ball really well. They had 141 yards rushing, 80 accounted by Damian Harris. And in terms of the Chargers, they had Justin Herbert's head swirling again. He was 18 of 35, 223 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. He was sacked 3 times, and he had a QBR of 15.9. Keenan Allen, he had 6 receptions for 77 yards and a touchdown. The Patriots were able to limit Mike Williams, who only had 2 receptions for 19 yards. The game was pretty much, I don't want to call it on ice, but it changed when Adrian Phillips had that pick 6. And that put the Patriots in front, and they never looked back, winning 27-24. So the Chargers, Peter, you were high on them. They've lost now 2 games in a row. Herbert's looked bad 2 games in a row. Now, what do you think of the Chargers?
I think that they're in a scuffling mode. I expect them to show up, especially off the bye. I don't know if that's more on Justin Herbert, more on Bill Belichick actually playing, or more on Brandon Staley. But I think they'll be fine. They're facing the Eagles this week, but if they lose 3 in a row, I think they're sliding down to the 17, and maybe because I think the Raiders are going to give him problems in the division, which is crazy that we don't say the Chiefs. But on the other side, I think, as you said, it's Mac Jones' worst game in his career. I think he was rattled. I think he was frustrated the whole time. He was getting hit. He was inaccurate. It was only like 50% on his completion percentage, but it was great to see the Patriots actually winning versus a quality opponent and put that to bed. So,
yeah, the defense, I think, for the Patriots was the calling card. They played extremely well. And I think Belichick's game plan, I loved it. I felt that he had Justin Herbert confused. I felt like he did a pretty good job on Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, like we talked about. And when you look at the Patriots, their next four opponents, they're all manageable. This week, they're at Carolina. Panthers could be without Sam Darnold and Christian McCaffrey. The week after, they take on Cleveland, and internally, Cleveland's a mess right now. Baker Mayfield is banged up. Nick Chubb is banged up. Kareem Hunt's out. The whole Odell Beckham situation. So that game looks winnable, especially at home. The Browns have lost 3 of their last 4 games. Then they go to Atlanta on Thursday Night Football. Calvin Ridley is likely going to be out for that game, so the Falcons' lead receiver will be out. And then the week after that, they take on Tennessee at home without Derrick Henry. So, Peter, do you think it's realistic that the Patriots could go 3-1 or even 4-0 on this 4-game stretch?
yeah, I think that the Patriots are going to get their stride. I think they're going to – the Bills games are going to be really telling at the end of the year, but I think they're going to sneak into a 6 seed at least, or a 7 seed at least.
So what do you believe the record is after these 4 games?
We'll say 3-1. We'll say a conservative.
So who do they lose to?
There you go, TJ. The Browns.
You can say the Browns. Okay, so you're saying after this 4-game stretch, the Patriots at 7-5.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're 7-5 after 12, you're the Patriots. You're in prime position to make the playoffs. I think getting 10 wins gets you a playoff spot. So that means you would have to go 3-2 in the last 5 games. I even think you have an opportunity to make it if you go 9-8. So I think by that logic, Peter, the Patriots would make the playoffs.
Listen, it's not like the NFC. I think the AFC is wide open. Wide open.
Totally agree with you. Even Buffalo, who I think overwhelmingly is the favorite.
Because Buffalo hasn't beat anybody either.
Buffalo didn't look good against Miami, in my opinion. Now the scoreboard might reflect otherwise, but if you watch that game,
it was 3-3 going to half.
Exactly. Like Buffalo didn't play its best football. And ever since Buffalo lost to Tennessee, I think they've been kind of shaky. So I think that's something to question. You look at other teams in the AFC, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. We talk about them every single week. They beat the Giants by 3 points to stay afloat. You look at the Raiders, they've looked really good, but I still think I don't want to call them frauds, but I still waiting for them to fall. The Chargers just lost to the Patriots. The Browns have lost 3 of 4. The Ravens, I think you could probably categorize them as the favorite in the AFC, but even then, they got their butts kicked by the Bengals, and the Bengals just got their butts kicked by the Jets. So who the hell knows? This AFC is wide open, and I agree with you. But the next 4 games for the Patriots will dictate how their season goes. If they go 2-2 or 1-3,
even if they go 2-2, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but I expect them. These are 4 winnable games. I mean, look, they're going to be favored in probably 3 of the 4, if we're being honest. So you have to go at least 3-1. I think that would be huge for them in terms of playoff seeding and able to finally get them in the right direction, which I believe is on the horizon. All right, moving on, Peter. Speaking of on the horizon, we have probably both teams not heading in the right direction. So let's start off with the Tennessee Titans. They squeaked out an overtime win against the Colts, 34-31. Ryan Tannehill, 23 of 33, 265 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks. He led the Titans to a win. In the Colts, they fell to 3-5. Carson Wentz, he didn't look good in my opinion. 27 of 51, 231 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. Michael Pittman, he is turning into a star, though. 10 receptions, 86 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 15 targets. T.Y. Hilton, he was pretty invisible. He also got hurt. He had 2 receptions for 16 yards. But the biggest story from this game is Derrick Henry is likely to miss the remainder of the season. So we all know how important Derrick Henry is to that Titans offense. Tell you what, Peter, I don't know how the Titans are going to be able to function without him. He is so pivotal of what they do on offense, and he's only missed 1 game in his NFL career. Do you believe the Titans are in some serious trouble?
I don't, because I think they're going to win the division, and then I think Derrick Henry is going to come back for the playoffs. Because it's 6 to 10 weeks, and I think it's on track for like week 17, and then you'll get them right, and then you'll play a division game at home versus probably the Patriots, and then it'll be hopefully not deja vu 2 years ago. But no, I don't think they're in trouble because the Colts lost to the Titans twice already, so I think they're done. And then the Jags are the Jags, and Texans are the Texans. So they just got to level water and just hopefully because they have talent. They have AJ Brown, Julio Jones. I mean, Adrian Peterson's gross, but they've McNichols back there. The Ryan Tannehill is fine. I think they'll be all right.
For me, anyway, they got to get their offensive line right. It's trending in the right direction. They're beat up there, but the first couple weeks they were really bad. I remember Tannehill got sacked 6 times, 5 of them by Chandler Jones.
They're number 1 seed.
Yeah. No, it's true, but I'm just not convinced Tannehill can really do it without Derrick Henry. Julio Jones has been practically invisible this year. AJ Brown's legit, though.
What do you think the Colts are going to win the division? No,
I don't know. I mean,
it's hard.
Who do the Titans have this week?
Titans.
Let me pull up their schedule. Let's talk.
Okay.
So we talked about how they have the Patriots in a couple weeks, but this coming week,
they have the Rams. Rest in peace.
Yep, they play the Rams Sunday Night Football. So Peter, right now let's do this. Titans are 6-2 right now. Give me a win or loss.
Loss.
6-3. Okay. Then they are home against the Saints.
Win.
7-3. 7-3. Okay. Home against the Texans.
Win.
8-3. At the Patriots.
Loss, I guess.
8-4. Home against the Jaguars.
Win.
9-4. And then at Pittsburgh.
Yeah, they'll be all right. Loss.
All right. So that's 9-5. Home against San Francisco.
Loss.
9-6. Home against Miami.
Win. And then
10-6. And they're at Houston.
Win. Yeah, they'll be fine.
So you think they can win 10, 11 games? I think that's manageable. Now they might still win the division, but they're not winning the Super Bowl. They're not.
No, I'm not saying Super Bowl, but they'll host a playoff game, and you never know. Derrick Henry can come back and just go off like he always does.
Yeah, I don't rule that out, but
credit to Derrick Henry. They say he got hurt the second play of the game, and he still played the whole game with a foot injury.
That's Derrick Henry, man. He's awesome.
And hands up to Carson Wentz. Did you see the play that he was going to get sacked for safety, and then they're going to automatically lose, and then he threw the interception on purpose? Yeah, it's the best football play I've seen in a while. Even though that they're shitting on Carson Wentz, on Twitter and stuff, throwing the interception, but you would have lost anyway.
Yeah. No, you're right. Carson Wentz, I'm out on him. I think this Colts team, a lot of people didn't. You said they were a contender for the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, I mean they're a quarterback away. I mean Philip Rivers is assumably worse than Carson Wentz. So,
I mean Wentz isn't playing well at all. Michael Pittman's emerging, but we talked about it in the offseason. I thought the Colts would do more in terms of helping Carson Wentz, adding more skill position players, and they just nope.
Also, they just brought T.Y. Hilton back, and then all right.
Don't get me wrong, Michael Pittman's I think he's going to be a star in this league, but T.Y. Hilton's been banged up all year. Jonathan Taylor, in terms of the backfield, he's been okay. Marlon Mack wanted out. So it's just, I don't know. I thought they should do more. I thought they should have been more in on trying to get star power at that receiver tight end position. Why on earth were they not in on guys like Hunter Henry or Jonnu Smith, or even guys like Julio Jones or the Odell Beckhams or anybody? It just really is mind-boggling if you're just going to keep relying on guys like Zach Pascal every week.
Not counting the Chiefs, they're probably the biggest appointment of this season.
Yeah, I think they are 100%. Again, we're only at the halfway mark. Crazier things have happened. I think Tannehill's going to get exposed, but we'll see. All right, let's talk about some other NFL topics. So we finally had the NFL trade deadline, Peter. We talked about it with Matt Cunha. I believe it was last week or the week before, how there was so many rumors speculating that Deshaun Watson was going to be traded. And here we are, post-trade deadline, and Deshaun Watson was not traded. You thought he was going to get traded. I still have been sticking with no, he's not. And he ended up not getting traded. Were you surprised? How do you feel about it? I think the Dolphins look pathetic right now.
Well, I think it's a power struggle because the owner ultimately said no. I think either Flores wants him or the GM wants him. And I think they're going to have to blow it up because it's a bad situation all the way around. You piss Tua off. You don't get Watson.
Exactly. I agree.
That franchise is stupid. I mean, you don't have your second overall pick, and I think Flores is getting fired at the end of the year.
I agree. I think they blow everything up. You look at Greer, the general manager, right? Yesterday he had a press conference and he kind of spoke of how he's still back into it, this and that. it's obviously so fraudulent. And he was just like, well, we still value Tua, but we just looked into Deshaun Watson. Like, no, you wanted Deshaun Watson. You clearly have been banging the drum for Deshaun Watson for the last 9 months. It's a fact. Now, you don't get Deshaun Watson. How do you think Tua feels? You wasted a whole year. Flores and the general manager and the owner, they're clearly not aligned. And then you have the whole Tua element to it. They botched it from the very, very beginning. They didn't improve the offensive line over the offseason like they should have. And Tua's development has not helped the team at all. He's been inconsistent. But I know we crap on Tua every week on the show. But at this very moment, if I'm Tua, I'm freaking pissed.
No, right.
Really
Like I said last week, I demand a
That's a
trade
joke.
from Miami and start my career somewhere else.
Like you publicly talked about, for weeks and weeks, the coach had to answer questions about Deshaun Watson. Your interest in Watson wasn't discreet. It was as visible as humanly possible. You had John McClain of the Houston Chronicle saying that the deal was going to be done in a few weeks. Like you had everything. You had everybody and their mother talking about Deshaun Watson in Miami. Deshaun Watson this. Deshaun Watson's going to Miami. This and that. The deal's done. They just waiting for the civil lawsuits to get figured out. And the complete audacity Chris Greer has to go in front of a microphone and still back Tua. If you're Tua, that's ridiculous. Like, I'm sorry. And Miami, if I felt good about if I were them going into after last year, you should feel good about your future. Now, I think you're probably looking at another blow up situation. I think Flores is gone. I think Greer is gone. Do I think Tua is gone? Who the hell knows? Because it feels like they change by the day.
Be worried, Dolphins fans. I think you're worse off than the Jets.
Jesus, like, what, you like Mike White?
No, I don't know. I mean, Robert Saleh. I like Robert Saleh. I mean, I like Michael Carter.
Well,
I
but
like.
here's the thing. Brian Flores isn't a bad coach. I'm sorry. I know this year he hasn't gotten the wins, but what is it like? Your quarterback has pretty much been under the microscope every single week for the last 2 months. Like, how are you supposed to get a locker room ready for a football game when you're dealing with that cloud above you? It's just so difficult, on top of the offensive line playing terribly, on top of the other injuries for guys like Devontae Parker. Look, sorry, Matt Cunha, and he knows it too. I'm sure Matt's frustrated. Like, I'm sure. And have you heard, is Matt frustrated?
I mean, yeah, he hasn't watched. He didn't even watch last week's game. I don't blame him. I mean, 1-7 thing's over anyway.
Look, you want Deshaun Watson, you go get him. You don't, you do not publicly put it in the media for freaking 9 months. You don't do that. The exact quote Chris Greer gave to the media yesterday was, quote, "We did our due diligence behind the scenes trying to figure out as much as we can, and we decided to not pursue a trade." That's what Greer said to the Miami Herald. Now, look, did you hear Joe Burrow and did you hear Cincinnati checking in and doing their due diligence on Deshaun Watson? No, you didn't. How about Justin Herbert with the Chargers? No, you didn't. How about Mac Jones with the Patriots? No, you didn't. No, it's clear you wanted Deshaun Watson. Don't spin it. You were just checking up on him. No, you wanted him. You can't spin it. Tua is no dummy. The fans in Miami are not dumb. Everyone in the NFL knows. It's not a secret. You wanted the guy. It didn't work out. And now you're stuck with a young quarterback who, in my opinion, is probably pissed. And he really isn't that good anyway. And you have a head coach and general manager that are not aligned.
Well, to be fair, they'll probably just go down this road in the summer anyway. They'll just be like this all the time until Watson gets dealt somewhere.
Yeah, until he gets dealt to Philly in the offseason, and the whole thing was a sham. But that's my Miami rant. Peter, let's talk about other things that actually occurred on the trade deadline instead of some fake news that was blowing up our asses every freaking week.
I mean, nothing other happened except this person. But
yes, Von Miller. Von Miller got moved. Super Bowl MVP of Super Bowl 50. He got dealt to the Rams for a second and third round pick in 2022. So when I saw this, I was taken aback. First of all, I wasn't surprised the Rams made a move of this magnitude because the Rams, their philosophy with draft picks, they don't care, Peter. Do you know they haven't made a first round pick in like 7 years?
Yep, since Jared Goff.
Yep, since Jared Goff. In 2017, their first round pick was moved for Jared Goff. 2018, it was moved for Brandon Cooks. 2019 and 2020, it was moved for Jalen Ramsey. And then 2021 and 2022, it was moved for Matt Stafford. So, granted, this wasn't a first-round pick for Von Miller. It was a second and a third. along with they gave up a pick for Sony Michel to the Patriots earlier in the offseason. So they're punting on this draft again.
They punt on every draft.
Fair, very fair. So you look at Von Miller, right? He's played about 76% of the snaps this season, which is a career low for him. And I was caught off guard because the Rams lead the league in sacks right now with 25. So I think when it's all said and done, Les Snead is going to look like a genius for this deal, or it's going to fall flat on his face.
Well, I mean, the Rams should make the NFC Championship easy. I mean, it's Super Bowl or bust, but in hindsight, I don't think it's a bad trade because, as we said, the Rams don't care about the draft, and I don't think they ever will. But it's going to catch up to them eventually. But I mean, Von Miller should do well. You can't double team him and Aaron Donald at the same time, so you're going to wreak havoc. But I was taken aback by it because he's owed like $16.5 million, and I was like, how does the Rams have like any cap? But the Broncos are actually paying their whole salary, I think.
So the Broncos are paying the overwhelming majority of the salary. Due to that, the Rams decided to pony up some extra draft capital. Shocker. When you look at Von Miller, he isn't the player he once was. I totally buy that, but I still think he's going to be effective for this Rams defense. And look, I still think this is Super Bowl or bust because the crazy thing is, Peter, Von Miller is a free agent at the end of the year, so he's likely gone. Like, very.
I thought he was going to retire. I thought he was going to retire.
And he's over 30 years old now. When these kind of moves occur, when you give up that much draft capital for a guy over 30 in his contract year, it usually doesn't typically work out real well. Now, the Rams are a unique case. They're all in. Now, did they get the right guy is the question. I think if the Rams don't win the Super Bowl this year, it's a bust. I tell you what, they have a 2-year window in my mind. This year and next year, if you look at their money situation and everything else, if they don't win a Super Bowl this year or next year, yeah, they're going to look really fraudulent, and Les Snead deserves to lose his job. Like, it's that clear to me. And if the Rams win a Super Bowl, I think you could see other teams take this philosophy of de-emphasizing draft picks. But if they don't, Peter, if they don't win a Super Bowl or at least make it, they're going to be a punchline.
Well, it's got to catch up to them eventually. I mean, look at the Patriots. They suck at drafting. It's catch up to them in the last 3 years.
But they still accumulate those first-round picks, those guys that are cheap, right? So those draft picks, a lot of those guys are really cheap. They fill in the roster with young talent, and then you grow and develop and yada, yada, yada. AKA Damian Harris. He didn't play his first year. He was on the roster and ended up being a good pick. When you're not making those picks, Peter, your roster isn't going anywhere in the future. And the reason it hasn't caught up with them yet is because Matthew Stafford has been completely electric. Stafford's been awesome. The defense over the last couple of years has been inconsistent, but you have that anchor in Aaron Donald that's the best player in the NFL. You take away a good quarterback play like Jared Goff was last year, and the Rams look pretty ordinary. Like, I couldn't believe that they paid Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. Like, I was shocked they did that. So,
well, I mean, Cooper Kupp's the best receiver in the league.
Cooper Kupp is phenomenal, Peter. I had a tweet yesterday. I don't know if you saw that, but I agree with you totally. Cooper Kupp is the most underrated receiver in the NFL, underappreciated. Look at his numbers, Peter, from this season so far. So he leads in terms of receivers. He's number 1 in receptions with 64. He's first in receiving yards with 924. He's second in receiving yards per game at 115.5. He's first in touchdowns with 10. He's second with first downs at 41. Yards after catch, 416 yards. That's second. And DYAR, he's 252, which is first in the NFL amongst receivers. He is awesome. He's absolutely electric this season. The chemistry that him and Stafford have is reminiscent of like Tom Brady, Wes Welker, Tom Brady, Julian Edelman. Like, that's kind of what I think of. The slot receiver that can get open in space. And Kupp's been great. But so, all right, I'm going to give you the floor right now. Do you think the Rams win the Super Bowl this year?
No.
I do. I think they do.
No, because it's too obvious, I think.
They were my preseason pick. I'm going to ride with it.
Yeah.
But if they don't, I'm going to
they'll make the NFC Championship game regardless, I think.
Well, they got to make the Super Bowl. They just have to. They can't lose to a team like Dallas or Green Bay. They can't.
They can't. I mean, they can though. I mean,
oh no, they certainly can. But from what they did, the money
right?
they spent,
But people won't get
capital,
outraged if they lose to the Packers. They lose to the Bucks. They lose
I will be.
to
Peter, you can.
Yeah, but that's just you.
I will get
like
outraged.
media won't be like, oh, that sucks. Like,
we'll see. We'll see. If they get blown out 48-3.
Oh, right. That's
Brady's
different.
Bucks. We'll see.
Okay.
Or Peter, I mean, they don't even have the division on lock yet. I mean, Arizona's still there. If you don't win the division, if you get stuck with a freaking wild card spot,
Yeah, but
they
I don't
deserve
think
all the
I don't think
criticism in
that's
the world.
their fault though. They only lost one game. They can't.
Well, if they lose to Arizona again, that's 2.
Yeah, I know, but they can't fault the Cardinals being set. Well, not anymore. 7-1 now, but they can't fault the Cardinals having the best year of their life.
Well, but here's the thing. It's not like they don't play the Cardinals. They play them twice. If they lose
Right,
twice,
I know. Yeah.
We'll see how it goes, but I'm very fiery on the Rams. Like I'm picking them to win the Super Bowl, but if they don't get there, I'm prepared to abandon ship really quick. All right. Also, what's news that broke yesterday that I was taken aback by it. Aaron Rodgers, he has COVID, but the thing that people are really intrigued on is the fact that he is not vaccinated. And he told the media in August that he was quote unquote, what was the word he used?
He's immune.
Immune, basically. I think he's immunized or something like that.
Yeah, his doctor. All right, listen. Medical hour. His doctor put more PCP cells into him and white blood cells so he doesn't get COVID. And then he was like, "Yeah, I'm basically vaccinated, but he's not vaccinated." So I don't know. It's a very slippery slope. People are outraged by it. I mean, it is what it is.
But the NFL did not take that as, oh, you got the vaccine, you're good. They denied his.
No, and now Rodgers is like, listen, you should examine my case.
Yeah, so now it's more. This is how I'm kind of thinking. Were the Packers aware that he wasn't vaccinated? Was everything true? Was there some fraudulence there? Did the NFL know? Did everyone in the building know he wasn't vaccinated? Because if, for whatever reason, not saying he had a fake vaccine card or anything like that, but if he kind of lied and said he was good and all that stuff and he wasn't, I think he should be subject to a suspension. I really do. Because the protocols are much different from vaccinated players and unvaccinated players. Now, if he was doing the protocol as an unvaccinated player, then it's fine. But to this point, we don't really know if he was or not. Because I've never seen him on with a mask on the sideline. Have you?
Nope.
So, hey, when the Packers beat the Cardinals, he was running around the sidelines without a mask on. We all remember that. So,
hey, maybe you got it from John Wick on Sunday.
Probably that or Devontae Adams the week before. So,
it's true.
Maybe it's just a misunderstanding with the whole Aaron Rodgers situation. Maybe the team knew, and Rodgers said that to the media, but the Packers knew he wasn't vaccinated. So, it is what it is. But if he was fraudulent about that, what do you think the ramifications were if he lied about his vaccination status?
I don't know. I don't know how strict the NFL is. NBA, you would get suspended for sure.
With the NHL, they had the guy Kane, right?
Yeah,
21 games.
NHL is suspended a lot.
21 games, I think it was.
That's because of their deal with Canada, though. I think.
Okay, so
but no, I don't think he'll get suspended. I think
so. I think he will.
Is what it is.
I think the NFL will use it to make an example. It's my guess. But again, Rodgers might be totally in the right. Hey, I wasn't vaccinated and everyone knew. So if it was, then is what it is. But Rodgers, since he's not vaccinated, he's going to miss this Sunday's game, and he cannot practice at all next week. He can officially come off the COVID list next Saturday. So he's not going to have any practice the next 2 weeks. So who knows if he's going to even play next week.
It's true.
And Jordan Love's getting the opportunity, Peter. Are you a Jordan Love guy?
I am a Jordan Love guy. It could be the Bledsoe Brady thing that Rodgers doesn't want to happen.
Or I think a better comp would be Brady Garoppolo.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
But I'm excited to see how Matt LaFleur does without his guy Aaron Rodgers.
It is going to be the best
Let's
game ever because it's going to be the Chiefs, Packers. I mean, Chiefs should win by a lot.
Yep.
But you never know.
And maybe that's one of your picks we'll talk about later. But the NFL's got to be upset because this game was one of the marquee games in the schedule.
Oh, for sure.
So Mahomes, Rodgers, we've never seen them play each other. Because the last time they played each other, Mahomes, I believe, was out for an injury.
Yep.
So it's unfortunate, but let's see how you do, LaFleur, with Jordan Love and Blake Bortles. I want to see it. I'll tell you what, it's a favorable matchup for Jordan Love because that Chiefs defense is bad. So it is a soft landing spot. But now, Jordan Love doesn't have to win the game because Mahomes is going to do what Mahomes does. But if Green Bay loses I don't know, let's say they lose 35-28. I think if you're Green Bay, you feel pretty good about your future, no?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
All right. Other topics in the NFL. Odell Beckham Jr. rumors, Peter. So it really started on Tuesday before the trade deadline. So Odell's father released, I believe it was a Twitter post or an Instagram post of pretty much he portrayed a play that Odell Beckham was opening and he kind of bashed Baker Mayfield on it. And Odell Beckham Jr. commented and was like, yup, like basically like, you're right. Just not an exact quote, but basically how it went. Then LeBron James tweeted something. I can read you LeBron's tweet.
LeBron James, the Cowboys, Browns, Indians, Lakers, stupid.
You said Cowboys?
Cowboys. Like,
but here's the thing. So this is LeBron tweeted. He tweeted, OBJ will show again why he's special. Wide receiver 1, #free OBJ. So for me, it seemed like before the deadline, Odell was like, look, I'm out. Like, that's why he let his father did what he did. And Odell, I believe, is friends with LeBron, the Cleveland connection there. So I believe that was calculated. I think that was some pressure to move him. Now, he didn't get moved. So then we come to practice on Wednesday, and Odell was dismissed from practice by head coach Kevin Stefanski. It was unclear about any details, and there was other reports circulating that Stefanski told the team that Odell isn't with the team or isn't part of the team. So they obviously can't trade him because it's past the trade deadline, but they could flat out release him if he wanted. He has another year on his deal and he'll get subject to waivers. I don't think anyone will claim him because then you'll have to deal with his salary. When you look at the Browns, it looks like they're really falling fast. Lost 3 or 4 games. Now you have Baker Mayfield and Odell fighting. And Mayfield was asked about it yesterday, and he's like, look, like, I'll put my ego aside if I have to, yada, yada. First of all, like, why does Baker Mayfield have an ego? Like, you haven't done anything yet either, kid. Nonetheless, sorry, TJ. But, like, they apparently aren't on good terms, and there's been a rift.
oh, it's true. I mean, Baker's playing for a job, too.
Exactly. So if this is it for Odell Beckham, right, Peter, he will have played 29 games with the Browns. In his 29 games, he only had 114 receptions, 1,500 yards, and 7 touchdowns. His 29 games prior to joining the Browns, 191 receptions, 2,527 yards, and 17 touchdowns. So, Peter, do you think Odell is done with the Browns? I put a poll on the Daily Goat Twitter. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah, I think he'll be done with the Browns. I
think so?
Yeah, I think somebody's going to have to pick him up. I think the Browns are going to release him. But no one's going to pick him up because of his shoulders injury. I think he's going to have to get both surgeries done. I don't know why he's still waiting to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, it's a bad situation. Listen, I don't want him on the Pats. He's a locker room cancer. I don't want him anywhere close. But if anybody needs, like, a wideout, like, he still has speed. Yeah,
if I'm the Saints, that's where I'm going. If I'm the Colts, that's where I'm going.
I mean, listen, the Chiefs brought in Josh Gordon. I mean, he's the same thing, but just way younger.
I think it's the Saints. I think that's the team that would do it. Now, I put a poll on the Daily Goat Twitter account, the _Daily Goat, and I said, will Odell Beckham Jr. play again for the Browns? What percent do you believe said yes out of 113 votes?
57%.
Nope. 12% said yes. 88% said no.
Damn.
I know, right? Large size there. And one other thing in the NFL I want to talk about real quick, Jameis Winston, he is out for the remainder of the season with a torn ACL. Tough break for Winston because the Saints looked like they were a team that was going to make the playoffs. They were coming off a great victory against the Tampa Bay Bucks.
They still should. They're 6-2.
Yeah, they still should. They're going to be rolling with Taysom Hill and Trevor Siemian, but it's tough for Jameis Winston, who was having an inconsistent year, but it looked like he was on the right track.
It's true. Listen, I mean, don't count out Drew Brees. Don't count out Phil Rivers. Don't count out anybody.
Yes.
You know who's going to win the Saints next year, too?
Who?
Baker Mayfield.
Ooh, okay. Okay, well, I will say this, Peter. I don't know if you knew this or not, but Sean Payton loves Baker Mayfield.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, okay, that'd be an interesting take. And you mentioned Philip Rivers. So, Philip Rivers reportedly told the LA Times that he hasn't heard from the Saints yet, but he would listen if they approached him. So the connection there is the Saints offensive coordinator, Pete Carmichael Jr. He coached Philip Rivers in the early part of his career. He was on the Chargers offensive staff in 2004 and 2005. So I think that's the connection there. But I love
his high school coaching is done. So
yeah. So we'll see what happens with Philip Rivers. I think he would be open to it, but I think ultimately they're going to rock with Taysom Hill and Trevor Siemian. I wouldn't be surprised if they brought in some other veteran that's not named Cam Newton. Yeah. All right, Peter, let's switch sports here. Let's talk some Major League Baseball. We finally have a World Series winner crowned, the Atlanta Braves. World Series champions after defeating the Houston Astros in 6 games. I picked the Braves in 7. You picked the Astros, and I believe it was 5 or 6. What do you think pushed the Braves over the top?
I mean, I was banging this drum for a while. I don't know why I got off of it. They're the team of destiny.
That's what I told you on
Yeah,
Saturday. Like, Peter, every week, Braves are destiny, Braves are destiny. Then we picked the World
I know,
Series.
but
and you're
I
going
just
Astros.
thought their talent was over. I mean, they lost Charlie Morton game 1. I thought their pitching was going to not do well. I mean, Max Fried pitched the game of his life on when was it? Monday. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, the Astros just ran out of gas, and good thing because the Astros absolutely suck. I literally hate them. But good for Freddie Freeman, good for Jock Peterson, good for that whole Atlanta sports team as a general, because they've been getting screwed the last 5, 6, 7 years. So.
Yep, and Pablo Sandoval now has 4 rings.
Nice. Playing 60 games, nice.
Yeah, 4 rings, baby. Count them up, Peter. 1 more for the thumb this coming year. But no, I think the Braves were a team that, like we talked about, the team of destiny. They were, in terms of their pitching, it was a concern when Morton went down, but I thought Houston's pitching was overrated from the start, and they were. Dusty Baker and the Astros come up short, but it looks like the Astros want to retain Dusty Baker, and I think they should. I think Dusty Baker's done a pretty good job considering the circumstances, the guys they've lost in free agency, the injuries they've had, and the whole cheating scandal that they've had to pretty much deal with every visiting ballpark they go to. But Peter, went just quickly here. The MLB offseason is going to quickly approach. We're going to blink, and it's going to be the winter meetings.
It doesn't matter because they won't get signed until March, April anyway.
You're probably right. Now, the MLB CBA is going to be a large talking point. Do you believe it's going to be an issue? Do you think there'll be a lockout?
No, at the end of the day, I don't think so. The owners are going to try to push for like less games. Well, maybe not the owners, but like the players are going to push for less games. It's not going to happen. It's the same crap, I think.
See, I think this year might be a little bit different. It wouldn't shock me if there was some work stoppage or something along those lines. So, Peter, I probably shouldn't ask you this now, but what is going to be the most surprising move in the MLB offseason?
Freddie Freeman to the Yankees.
Love it, Peter. Love it. All right, let's move on to some NBA. Boston Celtics. My Celtics lost to your Chicago Bulls on, was it Monday?
Yep.
Tuesday? Whatever it was. Celtics had a 19-point lead, but they got outscored in the fourth quarter, 39-11, and they lost. They fell to 2-5 on the season. Marcus Smart called out Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and he pretty much said, like, they don't pass the ball. But Marcus Smart had 0 assists in the game, but whatever. And like I said, the Celtics are 2-5 now. Jaylen Brown and Tatum did not speak to their media availability. The Celtics play Wednesday night. We're recording Wednesday afternoon, so we don't know how the Celtics will fare. They'll probably win by 50 because we're going to crap on them. But this was pre-Celtics Wednesday night game. So, Peter, when you look at the Celtics team, do you believe their season's already fried?
I mean, they're toast. Their talent's going to get them into the play-in game regardless, but I think they're toast. Marcus Smart, you should trade him last offseason, but it's not going to happen. Well, what are you doing calling out Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, as you said, when you have 0 assists? That's not the right game to do it. I know you're the most tenured Celtic, but I don't know. I'm just tired of him chucking up threes. I'm tired of Tatum going for the basket and looking for a call. Just drive to the basket. I don't know, just score points. I mean, Jaylen Brown, I think, is still doing the stuff with COVID like a month ago. And I think Udaka is my coach of the year. I think he's a little over his head. I think he's not the answer. I really don't. And I think they're already tuning him out, which is bad.
It's unfortunate from the whole Celtics perspective because you look at Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they're arguably the best young combination in the NBA, right? Both under the age of 25. You look at them and you think of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Golden State, how they built it. I think that's what the Celtics are trying to do. Now, they're at a real rough patch. Udoka, he's in a tough spot. I really don't necessarily want to blame him.
I think he's going to get fired at the end of the year.
But it's not his fault. I think when you look at it, and I didn't really think of this until I really thought about it a couple of days ago. If you're the Celtics, maybe you should have hired a veteran. You know, like I didn't think it was Brad Stevens' fault. I didn't think it was Danny Ainge's fault. I thought the personnel was to blame, and I still think it is. I think Jason Tatum is still a stud in this league. I would
No,
only.
I
trade him
think I
for-
think I think he's a big crybaby. I think
I would only trade him for one player in the NBA, and that one person is Luka Doncic. I wouldn't trade him for anybody else. He's too talented. I think he's probably gonna end up with like a guy like Kevin Durant. I think that's a ceiling, and as bad it is now, you got to live with it. Jaylen Brown, on the other hand, if it doesn't work out this year, as good as he's played, don't be shocked if they ship him to Portland for a guy like Damian Lillard.
I don't want him to appease him and just appease Tatum and just trade Brown for his boy
But here's the
freaking
thing,
Bradley
Peter.
Beal, and then
You
just
got to
Tatum's
think
gonna
of
be like,
Jason
"Oh,
Tatum.
nice, thanks."
You got to think of Jason Tatum like Kevin Durant. And if Tatum and Brown aren't playing the way they should, and their game's just not going to mesh well, then a change is going to be made. I would make the trade. I wouldn't make a change this year. I would let the whole thing play out. It's early in Udoka's coaching career. Like you said, Jaylen Brown still recovering from COVID. Jason Tatum historically starts off slow. It's not an outlier. If you look at his shooting stats every single year from the opening 10 games, he starts off slow. He doesn't really get into rhythm until the game 11 or 12. But that's not an excuse. They were up by 19 against the Bulls. They should have won. The Bulls certainly have talent, but you look at the Celtics team, Jason Tatum's a superstar. Jaylen Brown's a star. Dennis Schroeder, Al Horford, Marcus Smart, they're good players. Richardson, good player. Romeo Langford, Rob Williams are on the up and up. There's no excuse for this team to be 2-5. There's no excuse to lose to the Chicago Bulls. There was no excuse to lose to the Washington Wizards. You're running out of excuses for this team. And Brad Stevens, what is he going to do? Is he going to make a big shakeup? I don't think he's going to this year. I think your best path to success is to wait it out and just see how it goes. As dumb as that sounds, Peter, I think that's all you can really do right now. And then at the end of the year, and let's say you don't make the playoffs, maybe you try to get a guy like I said, Bradley Beal. Maybe you try to move Jaylen Brown for Karl Anthony Towns. Maybe you try to bring in Damian Lillard. Maybe you trade Jaylen Brown and try to get Zach LaVine in free agency. I don't know.
Bad all the way around, and we're
bad,
making
obviously.
everybody look good too. They're making everybody look good.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's not good at all. And I think the players are responsible for it. And as bad as Udoka, I don't like Udoka's rotations either. I'm going to quick second on this. Aaron Nesmith, I thought, played really well at the end of last year. I thought he was going to be a rotation piece. He's a spot-up shooter, can defend a little bit. And for some reason, Udoka does not want him playing at all. Same thing with Peyton Pritchard, who has developed into a nice little role player last year who could spot-up shooter, scrappy, can give you some minutes off the bench. And Udoka's pretty much limited his rotation. The rotation is too small, and I think that's part of the issue. I really do. And is that going to fix things? I don't know, but why is Aaron Nesmith not playing, and why is a guy like Romeo Langford playing like 25 minutes a night?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I think Langford's been pretty good this year. I really do, but he's not going to stay healthy. He's already been battling injuries. Like, why can't we see a little bit of Nesmith and Pritchard? Like, why can't we get a little less Marcus Smart at the point and play some Pritchard? Is it going to make a difference? I don't know. But why are we not trying? Like, the Celtics team, I guess they're still in quote unquote rebuilding mode. Why don't you want to see what the young players can bring? That's just my takeaway on Udoka's rotations. Now, Stevens, he was a little bit different with his rotations, but I just don't like how Udoka's playing a 7-8 man rotation this early in the season. Like, the guys are going to get tired. They can't play 35, 40 minutes a night. Maybe it's because the games have all been close. But
yeah, and then every other game is overtime too.
Yeah, but there's still no reason why Nesmith and Pritchard aren't on the court. There isn't. Because Nesmith was, last year, Peter, he was finally getting into rhythm. I don't know what he did to piss Udoka off. Like, he probably didn't defend on a possession, and it probably rubbed him the wrong way. But I don't see Jason Tatum doing that every possession, and Marcus Smart isn't the defensive player he once was either. So
the Celtics are broken.
They're breaking me, Peter. That's for sure. They are breaking me, and that takes a lot. All right, let's get into our picks of the week. All right, do you want to start off, or do you want me to start off?
You can start off. Go ahead.
All right, first one, I'm going to go Patriots -3.5 over the Carolina Panthers. Patriots are heading to Carolina to take on a Panthers team that is beat up. Sam Darnold, he was limited in practice on Wednesday. Christian McCaffrey, same thing with him. He was finally off of IR, but he has 21 days to practice before he gets officially activated. I don't think McCaffrey's going to play, and I don't think Darnold's going to play. I think it's going to be PJ Walker. And look, the Patriots are riding the momentum right now. They're on a 2-game win streak. Carolina, offensively, they just haven't put it together for some reason this year. They looked good the first part of the season, but Robbie Anderson's been non-existent. DJ Moore's been inconsistent, and McCaffrey has been hurt. So I like the Patriots to cover in this game, and I think they probably win by 10, 13 points. I like where this Patriots team is heading. I do worry about that Carolina defense, though. That defense is quick. That pass rush is quick. Their secondary is healthy now with Gilmore back. The Patriots' offensive line needs to be on their A game.
I
like
totally
the
agree with
Patriots
that.
-3.5.
That's why I passed -3.5 as well. I hope that Sam Darnold does play because you know how Sam Darnold is, especially now and especially versus Bill Belichick. I think Belichick's gonna make him see ghosts, as he said 2 years ago. But who is Gilmore gonna be on?
That's what I
this
was
week?
trying to think. I think they're
Is
going to
it
put him on Aguilar.
Aguilar?
Yeah, they're not going to put him in the slot against Myers. I think they're going to move him around. I don't think he's going to shadow Aguilar the whole game. I think there are going to be situations where he's on Jonnu Smith.
Because I think that he's gonna. I think Belichick's gonna like expose Gilmore. I think he's gonna throw to him all day.
That would be crazy to say. And Peter, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we had a little breaking news while we're talking some football. So 3-time World Series champion Buster Posey is expected to announce his retirement on Thursday, according to Andrew Baggerly. So Buster Posey, who is a 3-time champion, 7-time All-Star, won the NL MVP, Gold Glove winner, 4-time Silver Slugger. He's won the Comeback Player of the Year a couple times, announcing his retirement. So
that makes sense because he had to pick up his player option, and then the Giants were. I mean, they're in a good spot. They have Joey Bart right behind him, so it doesn't matter.
But it's crazy to think because Buster Posey was just so iconic for like catchers of our generation. But all right, back to NFL stuff.
Yeah. So the Pats -3.5 as well.
All right. Next one, I'm going to go Cowboys Broncos under 49.5. Dak Prescott, if he plays, which I think he's going to, he's going to be still a little gimpy. I think that calf is probably still bothering him. And the Broncos, their offense has been a train wreck. Teddy Bridgewater hasn't played well. Noah Fant, he's on the COVID list, so he's not going to play. This game is going to be a low-scoring game, in my opinion. Despite Dallas's offense being high-flying, I think the Cowboys will win this game probably like 23-14 or something. I think it's going to be low-scoring.
I totally agree. That's why I have Dallas -9. Do you know that Dallas is 7-0 this year against the spread? And I don't think it's going to change. I think that even if Dak is out, I think the Broncos defense is way overrated. I think Zeke's going to run all over him. And the receivers are going to do their thing. I think Michael Gallup is coming back this week. So, yeah, and I just think that Broncos are the most overrated 4-4 team I've ever seen in my life because they haven't beat anybody good. And they should have beat – and the Washington football team should have beat them last week.
Throwback to when Vic Fangio was clowning Urban Meyer, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I told you when that happened, you're Vic Fangio. You better watch yourself. And I think Fangio's won one game since that comment.
Yep.
All right, next for me, I'm going to go Giants +3 against the Raiders. So, yes, Peter, I know about the Giants' COVID concerns they have. So apparently they tested 13 people positive, but then they retested them, and there was only one person positive. But now I was reading Saquon Barkley, who was questionable to play. He is now on the COVID list, but I wasn't sure if he was going to play anyway. Due to that injury, he's still recovering from, but I like the Giants here +3. What the Las Vegas Raiders are going through right now, like that team has went through absolutely everything this year, and they've succeeded through it. But the latest thing is with Henry Ruggs, who was released by the team after Ruggs got into a car accident where he killed a 23-year-old woman. He was drunk. What was he? Yeah, he was drunk, right?
Yeah, he's drunk.
Yeah, he was drunk. So according to Nevada laws, he could face up to 2 to 20 years in prison. So that situation is truly saddening for sure. Henry Ruggs, former first-round pick. I believe he was the first receiver picked in his draft class. A receiver that I thought had a lot of potential, and he is now, his NFL career is over. It's a tragedy. And look, the Raiders have dealt with this situation, and now this situation and the John Gruden situation. That's just a lot to overcome in one NFL offseason. I like the Giants to win at home +3. I think Daniel Jones played pretty decent against the Chiefs, and I just think, I don't know where the Raiders' heart and brain are going to be. I like the Giants here.
Yeah, don't drink and drive, kids. It's bad.
For sure. Absolutely. That is a no-no.
So I have the Bengals -2.5 over the Browns. I don't get this line at all. I don't know if this is because the Bengals got waxed versus the Jets or it's more on the Browns, but the Browns are injured. The Baker Mayfield's not right. And I don't understand this line at all. I think it's a trap game, but I'm still going to pick it anyway. I think it's way too short. -2.5.
My next pick, I'm going to go Chargers -1 over the Eagles. So the Eagles are a team that I think are severely overrated. The Chargers, they've lost 2 games in a row. They need a win here. I can tell you what, if they lose this week, Peter, I think you should be out of the Chargers because they need to win this game. They should win this game. They're 1-point favorites. They should be able to cover and win. I know they're going to the East Coast, but it doesn't matter. This Eagles team is not good. They traded Zach Ertz a couple weeks ago. They're clearly in a rebuilding mode. They have some injuries. Jalen Hurts isn't playing his best football. They haven't been able to run the ball effectively. Chargers -1. And this should be a game where Justin Herbert gets back on track.
Totally agree. That's why that's my premium pick of the week. I don't understand this line either. I know that Philly destroy the Lions, but I think every team's going to destroy the Lions. And I don't know if this is more on the Chargers losing the Patriots or the Chargers losing the Ravens. But I just don't understand why the Chargers are just -1. I thought it was going to be like -4.5, -5. I think it's, again, too short.
So I think it's that. I think Vegas thinks Brandon Staley and Herbert are a little fraudulent. I think.
Yeah, but it's the
NFL's
Eagles. They
figured them
just
out.
beat the Lions. I don't get it.
No, I get it. But Chris Sims' podcast, right? He's pretty tapped in. I was listening to it, and he talked about how he thinks the Chargers really need to change up their playbook and stuff because teams are really catching on. And when that happens, it usually doesn't bode well. So I think Vegas is kind of feeling the same thing. The Eagles have some veterans on that staff, especially on the defensive staff. And I think they can expose the Chargers. But I tell you what, I'm not saying the Chargers are going to win by 3 touchdowns, but the Chargers should win this game by 3 to 7 points.
Sure.
My last pick, I'm going to go 49. Oh, I'm sorry. My premium pick, before I forget, Peter, was my Broncos Cowboys. But my last pick of the week is going to be the 49ers plus 1.5 points against the Cardinals. 49ers are at home. Kyler Murray is banged up. If he plays, how effective is he going to be on that ankle? And that loss they had on Thursday Night Football, that could be a loss that really is a momentum changer. How are they feeling after just getting your heart ripped out on that final play? I don't think it's going to be very well. The 49ers need this win. Garoppolo looked okay last week. And those divisional games in the NFC West, Peter, we talked about it all the time. They can go any way. And I like the Niners here. I think they win the game outright. And then I think people are going to be looking a little hesitant on the Cardinals.
I'll make the playoffs, though, for sure.
Oh, for sure. No,
yeah,
for sure.
So last pick, I have the Packers plus 7.5. I'm a Jordan Love believer. I think this line before the Rodgers news was the Chiefs -1, and I just need the Chiefs to show me one time they can cover a spread. They're 2-6 versus this year. I think that Jordan Love, even though he's a backup quarterback, he's going to have time. It's Wednesday when they announce that news. I think they'll have enough time, and I think the Chiefs defense is way too bad for the Packers to lose by more than 7 points.
Who do you think wins the game?
The Chiefs, barely.
Okay. So you think Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur they look really good?
Yeah, it's going to be closer than people think, I think that number is going to grow to 10 by Sunday.
I agree. I think it could be up to 10 and 11. And who knows if Devontae Adams is even going to play.
Yeah.
I think he's going to play, but if he doesn't play, Jordan Love's throwing to
Randall Cobb, it's fine.
Yeah.
It'll just throw to Alan Lazard and MVS or whatever it is, because that's
Aaron
who
Jones,
he's throwing to anyway.
AJ Dillon. Green Bay's going to run the ball down Kansas City's throat.
Yeah.
And I want to see some more AJ Dillon. Whenever he's out there, he's effective.
He'll be out there for sure.
All right, Peter. So I think that's it for this week. Next week, we can look at a plethora of different topics in the NFL. We can recap our picks. On top of all that, we get to see how Jordan Love does in his debut with the Packers against the Kansas City Chiefs. So that should be interesting. Peter, you got anything left?
Stay hot.